Hi, I'm Tara. Welcome to my channel. Or if you happen to be one of the lovely people who has been liking, subscribing, commenting, welcome back. Thank you so much. I've been receiving so many kind and encouraging comments, and it's been really great. I really appreciate it. Some of you have even been giving me some suggestions for video ideas, and I'm taking notes, and that is actually what has inspired today's video, was a suggestion from one of you. So I've been pulling together some photos of some homes that I really like, spaces that I think are really cool and interesting and inspiring, and I'm going to share them with you. And we're going to talk about what it is that I like about these spaces, what I think is working, and I think it should be really fun. So let's get started. So first up, we have this apartment in Rome, and I believe it is called Casa Volvere. The first image I ever saw of this apartment, I found this photo on Pinterest, and I was immediately drawn to this. I like the use of color, I like the art, but the thing that really got my attention was this very unusual transition in the flooring. It turns out this is a really old building. It dates back to like the 1700s. So the tile is apparently original, as are these rustic wood ceilings. So that transition between flooring types, they probably had no choice. It's probably where the tile ended. They had to find a way to make it work. And they have. And I think what makes it work so well is that blue alcove, the shelving, that lines up with that flooring transition, and it just makes it feel really intentional instead of feeling weird and random. I just think it was really well done. I think that's really cool. Overall, I love the mix of the old elements with the really contemporary elements, the color scheme. In this photo here, I really like that they've brought this pop of green into the bathroom. You don't really see that color elsewhere in the apartment, and it's just this little unexpected moment when you open the bathroom door. So really interesting choices made here. I think it's been really well done, and I like it. Okay, so next up we have this house in Nashville by Clela Design. It was featured in Domino, and this apparently is a builder's grade house. It does not look like one to me, so clearly they have done a good job. First of all, we have the front entry, and yeah, I mean, you look at this front entry, it's sort of a typical foyer. There's nothing that unusual about it. I think what works so nicely is just the unusual combination of furniture and accessories and lighting that they've done in here. I think it all ties together in a really interesting way that really makes the space. Moving on from there, we have the dining room. And again, more unexpected choices. I'm going to use the word unexpected a lot when I describe this house, but I just think that's what it is. There's just so many choices they've made that I would not have anticipated. Now, they've got this wood paneling, and yeah, I mean, I suppose wood paneling doesn't sound that unusual in a dining room, but the color is interesting because they didn't match the floor, and you might not think that these two wood tones would work together, but yet somehow they do. I also really like the pendant light. I think that pop of cobalt blue in there is really unexpected and really cool. There's this little room beyond the dining room, and they've turned it into a bar, which I think is really cute and clever, and again, really nicely done. The way that they have managed to sort of make these two spaces feel different and unique, but yet relate to each other through the use of color, I think is really well done. I like how they've executed this. Moving on to the living room. Again, really like what they've done here. It's not a huge space, but I think they've made the most of it. Having this table and banquette in the corner, I think is an unexpected choice, but I think it looks really cool, and given that this is directly across from the kitchen, I think it makes a lot of sense. Love the wall sconce. I think that's a very cool piece. It's a real statement fixture. And then the sofa, green corduroy sofa. I think that's really fun, looks really comfortable. And then we have this image where we see the room from the other direction, and you're seeing the kitchen. And I think the kitchen is maybe the only room of the house that you can kind of be like, okay, that does sort of look like a builder's grade house. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly nice, but there's nothing that different or unexpected about that kitchen. We've seen kitchens like this before. But I think how they've made it work is they've done some really nice custom window coverings in there. And then it's the other things outside of the space that just make the overall space feel so interesting. So you've got this very sculptural looking unique chair with the art above it. Having that right next to the kitchen, I think adds a lot of interest and just helps to really take away from the fact that it is a very basic kitchen that you would find in any new home. Just a really interesting mix of elements that I think work together really nicely. And the bedrooms. I love what they have done with the bedrooms in this house. I love the use of color, the unexpected artwork choices, the bedding, the mix of color and pattern used in the bedding, I think has all been just really well done. Well, the next space we're gonna look at is one that some of you are maybe already familiar with. It's Jenna Lyons' Loft in Soho. Now, some of you maybe got to know Jenna Lyons when she's on Real Housewives. Lots of us have been fans of hers long before that. I have been a fan since her days at J. Crew, and not just for her fashion choices, also for her interiors. A lot of people really loved her old home, which was a brownstone in Park Slope, but her new home, her loft in Soho, equally cool. Of course, it's just a really great space, right? You have these really high ceilings, huge windows. I'm assuming that this marble fireplace is original, although I don't know that for sure. The hardwood flooring, I know that she put that in, but I think it's a really nice choice. I think it works really well in the space. It feels appropriate for the era of the building. And then all of her furniture, her art, I think it's all just been really well done. And you know that a great deal of time and care and consideration went into everything in this space, but it doesn't feel overly precious. There's just the right amount of imperfection and quirkiness. I think just makes it feel so cool. I like the way she uses color. There's not a ton of it. The space itself is quite neutral, but she's done some really interesting additions of color, you know, like this pink sofa I think is really fun. Her bedroom is gorgeous. I mean, this oak paneling looks so rich and warm. The ensuite, the use of marble in there is of course beautiful. I like that she went dark with the walls. I think a lot of people would have done white walls, you know, for the white on white marble spa bathroom kind of feel that we see so much of. So I think going dark for the walls was something that felt really different and interesting. And then her kitchen. Her kitchen is gorgeous. She talks a lot about being a fan of unlacquered brass. And you know that all of the brass in the kitchen, it's just going to continue to age and wear and get a beautiful patina on it. I also really love what she's done on the island. So there are 2 slabs of marble, and she's connected them with this, it's like a dovetail joinery. And I've never seen this done on stone before. You know, anytime you have a really long span of natural stone, you run the risk of needing a seam, and people always really worry about it. They want it to be as small and inconspicuous as possible. And she's gone the complete opposite direction. She's embraced it. She's made it a really cool and interesting design detail instead of trying to hide it. And I couldn't find a great photo that really shows it well, but if you follow her on Instagram, she will sometimes do unboxings from her kitchen island, and then you can see it really clearly. And I just think this is really interesting and a really cool choice. But everything she does is cool, and if I was a millionaire, I would live somewhere like this too. Okay, now, I don't know if in the background you guys are hearing it. There's like some crackling noises happening. It's my slow cooker. I have dinner happening. Anyway, sorry if it's distracting, but we gotta eat. So moving on to the next home, this is designer Tally Roth's house in Melbourne. And this, believe it or not, is a rental. I'm very impressed with what she's been able to do with a space that is not her own. First up, we have this dining room. Again, yeah, like the space itself is pretty neutral, but she's got a great pop of color in this bold piece of artwork. I really like the light fixture. I think that's a really beautiful piece. And then the living room. This living room, I think, is a really great example of a neutral space that's been done well. There's nothing boring or basic about this room. I like the mix of textures, the contrast between light and dark, and then I think what really makes this space are the furniture choices. So instead of a coffee table, she's got this mix of like end tables and ottomans. Just feels very unexpected, very cool. And then of course there's a gallery wall, and I am always a sucker for a good gallery wall. So this space here, I'm guessing that this is like a family room. It definitely feels more casual and family friendly than the living room. There's a little more color going on in here. The cactus is certainly a very interesting choice. I don't know if I would necessarily put a cactus in my home, but I think it's really fun and bold. And again, if this is a family room, you know, I think this feels very kid friendly, but still feels like really cool and interesting. Okay, moving on to what I guess you would call the breakfast nook. Like you can see, again, this is a pretty neutral space. You've got very neutral walls, you've got a very basic tile floor, and what really makes this space is the use of furniture. I especially like this little bar vignette that she's got going on, and I think why that works so well is it's a really interesting mix of pieces. It feels really bold and interesting. These counter stools, these very sculptural wood counter stools, I think are another really great choice. So yeah, she's taken a very basic space and made it feel not basic at all. And then this little desk area, I think this is maybe in the bedroom, but I really like how this has been put together. I like the really pale desk with the bold green of the lamp. There's just interesting contrast and juxtaposition happening here. I think it's really nice. So yeah, overall, I think this is a very cool space. Really well done, especially for a rental. All right, now we have this home in London, designed by Brian O'Sullivan. Yes, Brian O'Sullivan. Had to check that for a second. Now, I'm going to be honest. I didn't love everything in this home. I'm just showing you the images of the things that I did like. The first image I ever saw of the space was this one on Pinterest. And something about this photo just really drew me in. I really like the combination of the marble with this wall sconce that's really bold and colorful. And then you've got the warmth of the wood. I don't know, this really, I think, just works really nicely, and this really drew me in. But I think the whole living room actually is really nicely done. I think that the coffee table is cool. The drapes have this really nice scallop edge detail on them, which I think is lovely. And then the crown molding, I think this is really unexpected. It's like this little narrow beaded molding that you don't see used very often, and I think that that's really nice. Here's the kitchen. This looks very custom, in other words, very expensive, but I think they've made some really unique and interesting choices here. I like the cabinet doors, the choice of hardware. It all feels like, yeah, something that is a bit different than you usually see, and it's been really nicely done. And then we have this room. I'm not sure what we're calling this. There's a TV in here, so it's like the entertainment space, the den, family room, I don't know what we want to call it. But normally I would not really care for a space with this much floral wallpaper, but it works here. And I think it works because you have this really cool juxtaposition between the floral wallpaper and the more modern art and furniture that they have in the space. And somehow this interesting mix just really works for me, and I do like it. So those are all the parts of this house that I did like, and yeah, really nicely done. Sarah Sherman Samuel, she is one of my favorite designers. I'm sure many of you are familiar with her work, and this list would just not be complete without me sharing something that she designed. So I've chosen to share her own personal home in Michigan. So this was an older home that they bought and they renovated. And of course, I mean, it was a great space to work with. high ceilings, big windows, but I think she really has done something cool with it and really made it her own. I mean, look at this staircase. How beautiful is that? And then these ceilings. I'm pretty sure that these wood ceilings were original to the house, and I'm really glad that she kept them. I think a lot of people would have either painted them white or just gotten rid of them completely, and I'm glad that she didn't. So what she's done instead of making the ceilings white is she's brought the white onto the walls. So the spaces still feel really light and bright and open, but she's kept the warmth of that wood on the ceiling, and I think that was a really smart choice. Her use of color and pattern. I mean, you're probably familiar with a lot of her product design. She designs fabrics and wallpapers, furniture. I love her furniture. I think she has some really cool pieces, many of which are in her house. But the way that she uses color and pattern, it's often quite sparingly used, but used in a way that has a lot of impact. Like I really love this sofa. I think that's a great pop of color in a very neutral space. In one of her kids' rooms, she's done this dark green, which I think is really great. I'm pretty sure she painted those stripes on the ceiling herself. I think that's a really fun detail. But otherwise, it is a fairly neutral space, but she's just got such interesting pieces, and she's done such unique things with the layout and the style choices that I just think are really interesting and fun. This is her kitchen, which again, I think is really lovely. More brass in a kitchen, but she's done this brass paneling on the back of the island, which I think is a really nice detail. She's got a lot of drapery happening in her bedroom, which I think is really nice. I think it really helps to warm and soften the space. And then in her ensuite, I think the attention to detail. So this white tile that she's used, it's not that unusual of a tile. I think we've all seen this, but what's really cool is the way that she's installed it. So she's left a wide space in between the rows and done this really wide grout line. And I've never seen anything done like this before. I think that's really cool. I really like that detail. I also really like the floor tile that she's used in there. It feels very warm and organic. I think that it sort of achieves in the bathroom what the wood ceilings have achieved in the rest of the house, which is to add some warmth and some depth. I just like everything about this house. I think she's done a really nice job. So this next house is a bit of a sentimental favorite. It is the Maple Leaf house, and it is right here in my hometown of Calgary. So this is a mid-century modern home. It is called the Maple Leaf house because the footprint is actually shaped like a maple leaf. So that means very few straight lines and a whole lot of angles. So when they renovated the house, it was a challenging space to work with, but Mara Studios, the architecture firm behind it, has done a really beautiful job. So Mara Studios is a local architecture firm. They do really great work. In fact, they actually just collaborated with Sarah Sherman Samuel on her show house in Michigan. So lots of very cool projects coming from them. This house, the current owners who undertook the renovation bought the house from the original owners, and they have managed to keep many of the original details intact. And this makes me so happy because it is becoming incredibly hard to find mid-century modern homes in this city that have not been completely gutted of all of their original character. It seems like everybody buys them and flips them into modern farmhouses, and it breaks my heart. And I know that goes on in other cities too, but it just happens a lot here, and it's really frustrating. So I applaud these homeowners for doing the right thing, and I applaud Mara Studios for doing such a beautiful job. I really just appreciate how much of the original home they were able to maintain. They kept the sunken living room. They kept this awesome fireplace. A lot of what's going on in the living room is original to the house, and I think it looks fantastic. The kitchen did need to be renovated. That is understandable, but I appreciate that the renovation still feels very authentic to the era of the home. The wood that they've used is teak, which makes a lot of sense in a mid-century modern house. They also introduced a lot of curves into the home, like this curve on the back of the island, which they said they did to balance out all of the many angles in the house, and I think that was really smart. The primary bedroom, they couldn't actually place the bed against the wall because of the slope of the ceilings. So they ended up building this sort of stub wall in the middle of the space, which gave them a place to anchor the bed. And it also just helps to sort of define the different spaces and different functions of the room. And the bathrooms. The bathrooms also had to be renovated, but they chose to use terrazzo, which again is a material that feels very authentic to a mid-century modern house. So I think that was a really good way to go. This room, which I guess we're probably calling a sunroom, they said they really didn't change much at all in this space. In fact, a lot of the plants are from the original homeowner. So I think that's really lovely. And again, I just really appreciate the effort that they took in maintaining the original character of the house. And it's been beautifully done. I love this house. Well, my friends, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, leave me a comment. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this one in the future. Thank you for being here. I hope we'll see you at the next one, and bye for now.